mamas do to comfort you and calm you down and let you rest now. The woman in your life, she can rest so easy.
Hello everybody and welcome to Women's Spaces. My name is Elaine Holtz and I'm your host. And as always, I'm really excited about today's show. I have a special guest with me by the name of Susan Shaw. And Susan Shaw happens to be the executive director for an organization called the North Bay Organizing Project, which I became familiar with a few months ago. And part of the North Bay Organizing Project is that they are pulling in all kinds of community programs to kind of be under one umbrella. And I just happened to wander in one day and they were having a meeting and they were making a decision on what they were going to work on as far as community activities, and decided they were going to form a task force. And we took a vote, and it was really interesting. You know, I really got a sense of democracy because they presented the issues on stage, and then everybody got these little stickers, and then we had these papers against the wall, and we all got to vote on what we would work on, what we felt was important in the community. And 3 things came up. The first thing was immigration reform, which is very, very important in our community. The second thing they voted on was the education, and as all of my viewers know, we've been having so many issues around education and schools closing, so that's a very, very important task force. And then the third task force was on district elections. And what's so exciting to me about this particular task force is because just by accident, by a fluke really, I got involved with the whole concept of district elections and trying to bring it to the community. And the first step, which was really the hardest step at that moment, was going before a group called the Charter Review Committee, which meets every 10 years. That means here we are 10 years, and then 10 years ago, they also brought this very important issue up, but so that's 20 years that this has been discussed, the idea of district elections. Well, after a really intensive community involvement, I think 150 people came to the Charter Review Committee and talked in favor of district elections. In fact, I've never seen so many people get up and be so articulate. And it was so interesting to me that of the 150, 149 were for, and there was one person that was against. And that was, I have never seen anything like that. And that's really how I got involved. And it's been a real journey for me. And so the next step for me was once they took that vote, I became involved with the task force. And we meet regularly, and the task force in its own right is one of the most democratic things I've ever seen in action, because we went and visited supervisors, we went and tried to get endorsements, we talked to people in the community, we got a pulse on what is going on, and now we're at the point where we actually have an office. The district elections now it's called a measure, it's called Measure Q, and it's going to be on the ballot in November. And folks, let me tell you something. All that, as I explain it, seems oh wow, they got it on the ballot. It was really a journey. So it's really important in my mind that the citizens of Santa Rosa really understand what district elections are all about. And so I brought Susan on to really help me. But before I get into the interview, I just want to tell you a little bit about her. Susan Shaw is an LCSW, which is very exciting too. She's coordinated many programs, has participated in many leadership organizations. She worked with the Grayton Labor Center from 2004 to 2008, and now she's the executive director of the North Bay Organizing Project. Welcome, Susan. Welcome to Women's Spaces.
Thanks, Elaine. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you and to talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that is democracy and people participation, and that's exactly what Measure Q is all about. Well, before we start the conversation about the measure, can you just give our viewing audience a little background on how you got involved with this measure?
We were working on the North Station Area Plan. Our task force last year was on transit equity and neighborhood development. And we met with the city council. We met with almost all the city council members. Actually, we met with all of them. and worked on getting the community connector bridge redefined and as a bridge that would actually benefit both the east side and the west side. We changed the dialogue around the bridge to one of inequity highlighted by race and class. And we involved students and immigrants and the local residents in advocating for this bridge. And we demanded that the city council fund the bridge, and we succeeded. We also participated in the planning processes that the city had set up and got them to send out notices in both English and Spanish to all residents that there were going to be these community meetings to help plan the whole plan for the North Station area, which is the north station of the SMART train that's going to be put in.
So was that involvement that got you interested in the district
election? That got
election?
us interested in district elections because we began to see that there were no city council people who were representing the west side, and there were no city council people representing the south side. And there's great inequity in how resources are divided up in the city and the attention that the attention that different parts of the city get. So when the charter reviews started considering it, we started looking at it. Members of the North Bay Organizing Project started really paying attention to what the issues were and why. And we started to see that we could engage citizens in a much more democratic process if they had access to and relationships with their city council members. And that would be much more possible if the city council members were from their communities.
You know, it's so true. You know, I was very involved with the guns in the park, and I remember I had to go through the city I went in front of the city council, and suddenly I realized, my goodness, who do I really know? I mean, who's representing my district? Who's representing that district? It was kind of confusing. So I think this would help with some of the confusion. Well, let's talk just a little bit, go a little bit deeper, and how does district elections, you know, there's all kinds of buzz that people are saying, oh, it's going to divide the city, you know, they're not going to be able to govern as well. But how do you see that the district elections would change the relationship between the government and the residents here in Sonoma County?
We have a primary example of it in our Board of Supervisors. The county of Sonoma is divided into 5 districts. There's 5 county supervisors. And people in their districts form relationships with their supervisor. When they have a problem in their district, they call their supervisor. They know who their supervisor is. When there's issues that come up in the city, people don't know who to call, and for the most part don't have relationships with the city council members. And the city council members are a little difficult, some of them, to get appointments with. So what happens when we were doing research actions on this and went and met with 3 of the different county supervisors, and what we heard is that people call them for city issues because they know them and they know who to call, and they know that this person is attuned to what's going on in their part of the county, and the Board of Supervisors actually works very well together for solving countywide problems and providing countywide governance. So we have a functioning example of this in our county, and we believe that districts will allow people to engage much more fully in the democratic process of running this city.
Well, you know, I couldn't agree with you anymore. You know, Mike McGuire is my supervisor, and it's so interesting. You know, he comes to the local chamber meetings. I can make a phone call to his office and he returns it because he knows me. He knows how involved I am with the with the county and with, you know, all the different things that I do. So you're right. You know, it's a way to have access. It's an easier way to have access. Why do you think people would be against that? I mean, why would that be a negative?
I think the northeast side has dominated the city council for such a long time and enjoyed immense privilege, and they don't want to lose that.
They don't want to give it up.
They don't want to give it up.
Well, you know, that's really interesting.
And I don't mean the people of the northeast side, because we have a lot of support on the northeast side, because I think a lot of residents on the northeast also experience not knowing who to go to, like who is our representative. They may know one of the city council reps, but they know that that person is generally representing the city. So I think I mean more that the some powerful interests in the city have kept control of the city council by putting money into the elections and making it possible for people to run together. 3 or 4 people sometimes will run as a slate and get the support of some powerful interests in the city. Someone running for office doesn't need as much money to run because actually they could walk their whole district, and over a period of time they could walk to every house in their district. They wouldn't need as much money to print up flyers and get out information about themselves. And so it would be cheaper to run a campaign. Therefore, more people would have the capacity to run. And it costs the city less because at any given time, every 2 years, they'll only be running an election in either 3 or 4 of the districts of the city. So they have less ballots to print up and add up and keep track of. So it both is cheaper for the city and it's way less expensive for someone to run.
So that's what it is. You know, somebody had asked me about that, and I was a little bit mystified. So because they have elections every 2 years for a city council member, they're only going to have in so many districts. It kind of moves along.
Right.
So it costs
4 1 year, one time, and 3 the next time, and the elections are every 2 years. So your district would actually only elect its city council person every 4 years.
You know, a lot of people that I have talked to, because when I became interested in this, continually tell me that there's a tremendous division in the city council now, on the people that are sitting on it now. And yet, at the same time, the opposition says there's going to be division because people will be fighting for their districts. How do you see that changing? I mean, what is the idea with the people that wrote this, that how to handle something like that?
Well, I think it also will, voters will be more engaged with who that person is, and they'll be able to evaluate, oh, this representative of ours is combative and he's not, or she aren't working really for our interests because they're creating division and making it difficult for the city council to work together. Voters can analyze that for themselves and decide whether they like the way that their city council representative is handling themselves in the council or not. You know, they can look at that person's behavior and whether or not they're working with other people.
Well, you know, it's interesting that you say that, because I think when I look at the Board of Supervisors, I think they work together very well, and that is different districts. But also, the thing that bothers me a little bit is when people don't give voters the credit that they deserve, that they can analyze these things, that they can make decisions, that we are mature enough to be able to elect somebody in our district, and that person is going to be mature enough to work with the other people that are also involved. Now, would you agree with that idea?
Yes, I think voters are, yes, I totally agree.
Yeah.
And when you look at the Board of Supervisors, part of the reason they work well together is the values of the people who were elected around representing their districts and working well for the good of the whole county. They work towards the common good while remembering what it is their district needs and what their district needs them to do. And the city council could function the same way.
Well, you know, I wonder, it's really interesting. One of the latest things that really got to me was that when they passed this agreement to allow Chick-fil-A in, and I just thought, gee, another fast food place across the street from our school. And then I thought to myself, well, if they're going to bring in a fast food place, why can't they go to our local chicken manufacturer, you know, in Petaluma particularly, and why can't they?
There's one in Fulton.
Yeah, there's one in Fulton. So why can't they go to these people and negotiate something to bring local chickens that are organic, etc.? And I was told, oh, that's impossible. And I thought, wait a minute, maybe it's impossible because I don't know who to support or who to push on it, but maybe it's possible if I had somebody to talk to. So that to me is, I really see the real importance of district elections. I think it's important that we have equal representation, and that that's what democracy is all about. I mean, it's just amazing. Well, what are some other thoughts you have about the district elections that you'd like to share with our viewers?
I think that all Santa Rosa residents pay taxes, and they're entitled to representation. Everybody in the city is entitled to representation, and they haven't had it on the city council. And that's, I think, a very important concept, that we're all entitled to representation, everyone pays taxes, and everyone is entitled to be engaged with their elected officials, to know what they're doing and why they're doing it, and to understand how decisions are made, and to engage in them, to have their voice be heard, to have a say in the kind of city that they want.
Well, talking about engagement, how is the campaign going? I know we just had a kickoff, and I know we raised about $12,000, which was so exciting to me, because I thought it wasn't a huge group, but it was a good group. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that demonstrated. I saw many public officials were there. I saw Gary Wysocki there. I saw Marsha Vos Dupre. Mm-hmm. You know, it was can you remember who? I can't remember who else was there. But it was really a really wonderful event. So how are people getting engaged with this? What are some of the things people are doing to try to educate the community?
From the North Bay Organizing Project is now part of a coalition of community groups. So it's the North Bay Organizing Project, the Neighborhood Alliance, the Santa Rosa Junior College Association. There's a number of community groups that are engaged in working to pass Measure Q, because they're city-based groups. The North Bay is a countywide group, but they're based in the city, and they know that they want better representation on city council. But the other thing that we're doing is walking the neighborhoods with information. And last Saturday, before the kickoff, there were 2 sets of volunteers who care about Measure Q who got out and walked the neighborhoods. And what they found is that people don't really know much about it. And so that person-to-person contact, where people can talk about why they believe in Measure Q and why they think it's important, and explain what it is, that the city will be divided into 7 districts, and that a city council member will then run from each district, or be elected from each district to the city council. In my experience, I was out walking, it made a lot of sense to people. And as soon as they heard what it was and they saw the little map of where city council members had come from, they immediately said, oh, this makes a lot of sense. I really want this.
You know, it's interesting you say that. I mean, that's the purpose of doing this interview, is to help people to understand how important this is. You know, one of the things I have the fact sheet in front of me, and one of the things it says is that your representative will be familiar with your parks, your potholes, your safety issues, and other local problems that are right within your area. Mm-hmm. And then they can take it to the bigger board and then work out some sort of compromise to make sure that there's some, how can I say this, fairness as far as allocating money, allocating funds, and allocating resources. So I think it's real important. And another thing you said is how people get it when they're educated. And I find that somehow when we go to vote, it's so complicated. But one of the things that I have to compliment the people on the committee for the district elections is they've made it very simple. In fact, people can email me at Elaine Holtz, ELAINE HOLTZ @yahoo.com, and I'll be happy to send you one of these sheets. It's a simple sheet, and it's so, the way they did it, they bulleted it. I mean, it just makes it real simple.
It's really good.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to share about? I know you need funds. Can you talk a little bit about that?
The coalition needs funds to print flyers and to have coordination among the groups. So we have, the coalition hired someone to facilitate the groups, and he's doing that, and facilitate meetings and work on messaging and a website and things like that. Although all the partners are participating in the development of all that. The North Bay Organizing Project, several of the members of the task force were involved in writing the ballot argument and the rebuttal, along with Supervisor Efren Carrillo, who signed the rebuttal. But that was a coalition-wide effort, and the North Bay Organizing Project was really involved in that.
I know you have so many endorsers. I know you have Efren is endorsing, Mike McGuire, Shirley Zane.
And they all have sections of their supervise, their county districts include the city.
So that is really important. And you know, one of the things that is really interesting, I used to always feel so uncomfortable when I heard people ask for funds when elections are running. But then when I start looking at Citizens United and I look at all these things, I mean, hey, the big boys and big girls, they all put tons and tons of money in it. And one of the things that I'm finding out now is that when you do contribute, you're really investing, because you're saying, this is what I support, this is what I want. And it can't happen if we don't have the literature. It really can't. Well, time goes by fast when we're having fun in this room, so I would like you to just look at this camera, and anything special that you'd like to tell our viewers, please just be my guest.
Okay. I would say vote yes on Measure Q. Think about who you know on the city council, and if you know anyone, and imagine knowing your representative to Santa Rosa City Council. Imagine what it would be like to have that person come to your door and tell you why they feel qualified to represent your district.
Well, I couldn't have said it any better, and I have to tell you, I remember when Mike McGuire and Deborah Fudge were running, and they both came to my door, and I had them come in the house, and we talked, and I got to know them. And when I made my vote, it was a very calculated vote, and a vote that I knew who I was voting for. Well, Susan Shaw, thank you so much for being on Women's Spaces. Oh, thank you. And thank you for all the wonderful work you're doing. And to my viewers, wow, that was some interview. You know, I personally have been going to quite a few of the North Bay Organizing Projects meetings, and I'm involved with they're going to be having a big event on October 27th where everybody's going to come together. So if you're curious about them, watch your newspaper, make sure you watch the announcements on Women's Spaces, and we'll let you know a little bit more about it. But back to district elections, you know, we live in a democracy. And oftentimes, people don't understand what it means to live in a democracy. They just think we live in a democracy and it's a capitalist system and we all can make all kinds of money, and that's what a democracy is. And I'm almost beginning to believe that people come to this country with that idea in mind. But you know, a democracy really takes we, the people. It takes people participation. It takes people energy. I really encourage you at the end of the show, when I flash the credits, you'll see the website for district elections. I really encourage you to read the information. Get yourself educated. This is a very important vote. And to my viewers out there, you know, I hear a lot of complaints. Oh, my vote doesn't count. You know, I'm not going to vote. Well, you know something? Your vote does count, but it doesn't count if you don't vote. Imagine if 1,000 of you stay home because you say, oh, I don't want to vote, you know, they don't pay attention to me anyway. And then you have a problem in your area and you have to go see a city council member, and you go in front of the city council and you don't know anybody on there. Then you start complaining. Well, maybe if you would have been one of those 1,000 votes that got out there and voted and put this in place, maybe you would have had somebody to say hi to and somebody to address your grievances. Not only grievances, but just get to know. I mean, you know, oftentimes we treat our public officials as celebrities, like they're better than us. We elect them to serve us, and that's why it's so important to get to know who they are. So I can't say it enough. November 6th is going to be here before we know it. We have a presidential election. We have all kinds of initiatives on the ballot that we really need to pay attention to. And I encourage you, please vote. Find a friend who's not registered. Contact us. We'll come out there with a form and help them register. It's very important. We live in a free country, and the way it stays free is if the citizens participate. And I learned this very late in life, and I have to apologize. I wish I would have learned it a lot sooner. I would have been a lot more active. But that's yesterday, and today I can be active, and today you can be active. Anyway, as I do at the end of every show, I try to encourage, particularly my women viewers, get off your duff, do something for peace, do something for the children. At the very least you can do is vote on November 6th. Vote yes on Q if you're so inclined, but at least get informed. But you can also do one other thing. Write your president, write your local people. let them know one thing, that you have a suggestion for them, and that is before they write that important bill and before they take that important vote, they ask one question, and that is it good for the children? And if it's not good for the children, it's not good for the future. I don't generally take stands on things, but I will say this, Measure Q is good for the future. It's good for the future of our children, and above all, it's good for the future of our city. Anyway, this is Elaine Holtz with Women's Spaces saying thank you so much for watching, and I will see you the next time.
The woman in your life who will do what she must do to comfort you and calm you down and let you rest now. The woman in your life, she can rest so easily. She knows everything you do because the woman in your life is you. The woman in your life knows simply what is true. She knows a simple way